Thank you for joining our live, interactive telephone town hall. We're hosting tonight's event to give Congresswoman Spanberger the opportunity to hear directly from you and answer your questions about the public safety issues facing Virginia's families and communities. As I mentioned, this event is an interactive forum. Congresswoman Spanberger will be taking as many questions as she possibly can during this event. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your telephone keypad at any time. You'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from. The next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call and able to ask your question directly. You can also ask a question by submitting one through the portal below our online streaming player at spanberger.house.gov. Again, spanberger.house.gov/live. Now, if you're watching on Facebook Live tonight and wish to ask the Congresswoman a question, please go to spanberger.house.gov/live so you can submit your question. Additionally, if you'd like to receive updates from our office via email, please press *6 on your telephone keypad, and an operator will collect your email address and get you signed up. We could receive a lot of questions during this event, so if we're not able to address your question, please call our district office at 703-987-2180 during normal business hours. Again, 703-987-2180. Also, if you have questions throughout the event, please press *3 on your telephone keypad or type your questions right below the streaming player. Now, please welcome Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger.
Good evening. I'm Abigail Spanberger, and I am proud to represent Virginia's 7th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. And over the years, we have held these interactive town hall events in order to be able to hear directly from you about the issues facing our communities, from supporting our veterans to lowering drug costs. And tonight, I am looking forward to a conversation focused on the issue of public safety. I'm looking forward to discussing how we can continue to work together to make our community stronger, to answer your questions, and speak to the work that I've done in Congress. As a former federal law enforcement officer, I recognize the challenges facing so many in the law enforcement community, and I am grateful for the sacrifices made by law enforcement officers and their families. And to any law enforcement officer on the call tonight or to their families, thank you for all that you do to keep our community safe. In Congress, I have been focused on addressing the hiring challenges facing some of our local police departments and sheriff's departments, and I remain committed to making sure that our departments across the 7th District can recruit and retain highly trained officers who do the hard work every day of serving our communities. Additionally, as a mother of 3 children, I understand the concerns that so many parents have about the safety of our kids at school or on the bus or when they're out in our communities. From preventing gun violence to keeping our kids safe online, there is so much more that we can do. And as a legislator, I've heard directly from Virginians about the ongoing fentanyl crisis in our communities. And that's why I have focused on supporting an all-hands-on-deck strategy to combat this deadly substance and save lives. I was proud to lead a bipartisan charge to increase funding at the federal level for prevention, treatment, and recovery programs, and that bill got signed into law by the president, and I've been proud to work with Virginia law enforcement to crack down on fentanyl trafficking and to hear directly from those doing the on-the-ground work about what other resources may be needed. I'm really delighted that tonight I am joined by 2 guests who serve Virginia's 7th District with distinction and work every day to keep our community safe. I am joined by Chief Peter Newsham, who serves as the police chief of the Prince William County Police Department. And I'm also joined by Chief Chris Settle, who serves as the police chief for the Culpeper Police Department. I want to thank our guests for taking time out of their busy schedules to answer questions tonight that come from community members. I want to thank them for their commitment to our neighbors in the 7th District. And I also want to thank them for all of the work that they and their officers have done in working in coordination with my congressional office in quite a few circumstances when we've been working on legislation and wanted to get an input or an idea or feedback from those on the ground. Both of these police chiefs and their departments have been vital resources, and I'm grateful for their willingness to work with me as I continue to try and push forward legislation that supports their efforts and keeps our community safe. Before we move to opening comments from our police chiefs, I also want to remind everyone on the call, if you or a loved one need any help with a federal agency, the VA, IRS, Social Security, we will always do our best to help you. So please be in touch with my congressional office at 703-987-2180 or online at spanberger.house.gov. We've got a dedicated, hardworking team, and we are here to help you. So with that, I'd like to open it up by turning it over to Chief Newsham of the Prince William County Police Department to share opening comments.
Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Representative Spanberger. I want to thank you for inviting me to be on the call this evening. I also want to thank my colleague and friend, Chief Settle from Culpeper, for joining us. Just to tell folks a little bit about Prince William County, for those of you who are not familiar, we are about 350 square miles, getting close to about 500,000 residents. And the Prince William County Police Department has the responsibility for providing police service with our town agencies and the state police and some federal agencies for those close to 500,000 residents. We take that very, very seriously. One of the most important ingredients at Prince William County for us in developing a relationship with our community is accessibility, of course, but also trust. Two of the things that we require and two of our core values that we have in Prince William County is one, honesty and integrity. And in fact, every employee, both our sworn and our professional staff, are required to sign what's called an honesty and integrity memorandum. And essentially what that says is if they're dishonest in any of their official duties, then I have no other option than to let them go, to terminate them from the department. The second thing, and just as important as honesty and integrity, is the way that we require that our officers treat people, and that's with dignity and respect. We demand it of our officers, and our officers have done a fantastic job of providing services to this community. Love the work, love the people that I work with, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Chief Newsham. And I'd like to turn it over to Chief Settle of the Culpeper Police Department.
Thank you, Congresswoman Spanberger, and thank you for having me tonight. And I'd like to send a hello to my colleague, Chief Peter Newsham of Prince William. We always look up to him in size, and we're just neighbors to the south, but it's great to have a different perspective from the two chiefs of one of the biggest, largest law enforcement agencies in Virginia to a medium-sized police department like the Culpeper Police Department. Just a little bit about us. We're 49 sworn officers. We cover about 8 square miles. We are a full-service law enforcement agency, which means we have enforcement, traffic enforcement, investigative assignments, drug enforcement, and our community policing divisions as well. So having said that, we have about 25,000 citizens here in the town of Culpeper. We are the central governmental hub of Culpeper County, which we have a Culpeper County Sheriff's Office that we have a great partnership with Sheriff Tim Chilton. I would tell you that, like Chief Newsham stated, we have a robust community policing program, as Prince William does. We honor, we stand on our community policing program. We have roughly 24, 25 community policing neighborhood watch programs, which each one of our officers is assigned to one of those neighborhood watch programs. And what that does is provide that trust, that legitimacy, that dialogue like we're having tonight. We like to extend that dialogue into our citizens. And so we really stand by our community policing program. We stand by our relationships with our community, the trust building that we have in dialogues like this or other town halls or neighborhood watch meetings that we have. So I will tell you, we really emphasize engagement. We really emphasize dialogue. and community policing. So other than that, I always tell them that we do community policing very well and we do enforcement very well. So that is the two main tenets that we stand for at the Colorado Police Department. As Chief Newsham stated, that we are tasked to bring in the most qualified police officers to our town that fits our community. That's very important. And again, as Chief Newsham stated, that we put a price on integrity, on service, on community, and commitment. And we stand by those. And thank you for having us. And thank you for all the town of Culpeper residents that are joining us tonight.
Well,
Thank you very much,
with that,
Chief Settle.
Turning it over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And thank you to everyone who has joined us for this live telephone town hall where we're focused on public safety issues. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, please press *3 on your telephone keypad at any time to get into the queue and ask your question. Now, a member of Congresswoman Spanberger's staff will collect your name and where you're calling from, and then we will take you live. And if you are listening in online, please go to spanberger.house.gov/live, where you can submit your name and question right below our streaming player. Let's head out to Prince William, where we've got Mike joining us on the line. Hello, Mike. You are live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What's your question?
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. My question it relates to public safety in a broad way. My question is, given the data breaches in healthcare and a lot of stuff, what can be done to hold the CEOs accountable other than allowing them simply to say, I'm sorry? Because if I'm hacked, whatever, and they steal my information, I may get, we'll help you with your credit rating or whatever, but what penalties are these CEOs or senior officials who are responsible for the agencies or the organization's data being done to hold them accountable for these breaches? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Mike. And I'm going to start it off because this is predominantly one that I can answer from the federal perspective on the issue of data breaches or any sort of theft that the chiefs might be seeing in the communities. If they'd like to add something with kind of a local context, I welcome that, but I'll plan on taking this one. So, Mike, there were a couple elements to your question related to data breaches, and in the context of my answer, I just want to remind anyone on the call that in Congress, I serve on the Agriculture Committee and I serve on the Intelligence Committee. So I do a lot of work in the space of recognizing foreign actors or criminal networks who are interested in stealing information, data, American citizens' information for the purposes of, a ransomware attack, as we saw with the Colonial Pipeline, or theft of credit card information for, onward criminal activity. And from a federal perspective, it is incredibly important. Well, on the kind of investigative side, this is an area where it takes an all hands on deck effort. FBI has a kind of central authority over these issues. If anyone is facing issues where their personal data, or any business owners on the line where you might have experienced a ransomware attack, please, we can make sure that you're in touch with the right folks in terms of how to report it if you've been a victim of this. But your question was a bit more on the liability and the penalties. And this is an ever evolving issue because at the end of the day, the banks or businesses or doctors' offices who are, or pipelines or any other business entity that's that's a victim in these circumstances of that type of theft, from a overall standpoint, they are victimized. They have had data and information stolen. And that's part of it. But then, Mike, you spoke about what happens when it impacts your credit rating, when it impacts your purchase history. And that's the place from a kind of setting boundaries, setting guidelines, setting floors and thresholds and expectations, much in the way that we do with healthcare related information as it relates to HIPAA, right? The standards of how we protect information and data, ensuring from a federal perspective, there are ongoing efforts to look at what is an evolving landscape as cyber threats continue to, frankly, as criminal entities and organizations get better and better at stealing this information and breaking through what should have previously served as a strong firewall. And so there's always ongoing work in determining is that floor, are those guardrails to keep consumers protected, and kind of set a standard for how data at a bank or within a credit card space or within a purchasing space is protected. And so the direct answer to this is, if anyone is a victim of cybercrime, please be in touch with our office, be in touch with local law enforcement, be in touch with the FBI if it's a ransomware attack. And then I would just note there is another trend that we are seeing, certainly within the 7th District and beyond, where people are doing online attacks at individuals. So, doing a pop-up on your computer. There's a pop-up that shows up on the computer and it says, "Hi, we're reaching out to you from Microsoft," or "We're reaching out to you from Google, and there's a problem with your computer. Please, we would love to fix it remotely. Please wire us money." And there's been circumstances where they sort of up the ante, right? And this is a scam. They up the ante and they basically, threaten the person utilizing the computer. "We're from Microsoft and we've seen on your computer that you have illegal material on your computer. We're sure it's not yours, but pay us this much money and, we'll remotely remove it so you won't get in trouble with law enforcement." Increasingly, these are types of scams that are targeting people online, and frequently older computer users, where they'll learn a little bit about people from their social network, and then they'll do these types of kind of scare tactics. So, Mike, I know that's not the crux of the discussion and the question that you had, but while we were on the issue of kind of large-scale cyber attacks, I did want to make sure that people are aware and raise some sensitivity to the fact that we're seeing those at, the very kind of hyper-specific, targeted at individuals level. And with that, I'll pause for a minute if either of our chiefs want to speak on that issue. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to the moderator.
One thing I'll say on that, Representative Spanberger, and you brought it up, is the increasing amount of scam attacks on all types of folks, and they're disguised in a host of different ways. Like you said, it could be a pop-up on your computer. Somebody could give you a phone call. I was listening to one that was going around recently where somebody's posing as your public utility, claiming to shut your power off if you don't pay them right away. So one of the things we try to do through our public communication is just to warn folks to be careful. Not anyone who's asking for money, anyone who's claiming to be a public utility or some type of government actor, you have to be very, very careful. And then once they start asking about, some kind of a payment, your radar should go up, and that should be a firm no. Get off the call and report it to law enforcement.
I'll just.
Oh, please go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll just add this. The chief's exactly right. And 10 years ago, we'd always see our senior citizens were the targets of these scams, and recently we've seen, because of the elaborate schemes that are out there now, we've seen people from all ages being victimized in these type of scams. And I get calls personally from friends of mine that I went to school with, and where they've been targets of scams. So it's not just the senior citizens anymore. And I agree with Chief Newsham that we try to put out on our social media platforms information. But again, as he said, do not. I always tell people when we have neighborhood watch meetings, we always say, if it's too good to be true, it's not true, and to not provide credit card information through the internet or on any kind of pop-up or email.
So tonight we're focused on public safety issues. If you've got a question you would like to ask, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. Again, to get involved in tonight's discussion, please press *3. Heading out to Woodbridge now. We've got Dawn on the line with us. Dawn, welcome to the call. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, I actually have two, but this is more so specifically for Prince William County. I've been a resident for 18 years. I know gun violence is a hot topic across the United States. I wanted to know what Prince William County is doing specifically with the initiatives and or prevention measures with safety of residents, as today alone there was a shooting at Manassas Mall and 2 people were injured.
John, thank you for this question. Chief, I'll turn it right over to you.
Yep. Thank you, Representative. So, Don, that is a great question. And so one of the things I will say is that since I've been in Prince William County, the level of gun violence that we have is very low in comparison to my work that I did up in Washington, D.C. But any gun violence is too much gun violence. Like you said earlier today, unfortunately, we had a shooting over at Manassas Mall. So the things that we do in law enforcement, and one of the things I will hopefully this helps you rest assured, Don, is that our criminal investigations division does an excellent job of getting to the bottom. For example, the shooting that happened today, it looks like that we're going to be able to hold all of the people that were responsible for that event accountable. And then when it comes to the homicides, in the 3 years that I have been here, the gun-related homicides, almost all of those cases have been closed with arrest. So that's one of the things that we have a responsibility to do as law enforcement is if there is a gun-related event, there is gun violence in the community, that we get to the bottom and we hold the person accountable. We also have, that's going on in Prince William County, a community safety initiative, and that's actually a separate part of the government. What they're trying to do is look at the root causes of gun violence. They're looking to some of the issues that cause some young people to reach for a gun, frankly, to settle a dispute. And so what they're doing is they're just getting underway, but they're starting to collaborate with a lot of the service providers throughout the county, with our public schools, with our interfaith community, to try and get to the root causes and try and prevent some of those things from bubbling up in the first place.
And just to add on to what Chief Newsham said, in Congress we passed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which has a variety of different provisions, but specific to that issue of interventions and prevention at the community-based level. The bipartisan Safer Communities Act, it includes funding that can be used for localities and communities can apply for, that's federal grant dollars for community-driven violence intervention programs. And so, some examples of how these types of programs have been utilized in various parts throughout the country. It's expanded behavioral health services, it's violence intervention, it's kind of understanding what's happening on the ground, youth program, youth entrepreneurship programs, and across the board where these community-based programs have been studied, they have demonstrated a reduced homicide rate, in some cases up to 60% in areas where they've aggressively implemented some of these programs. But from a federal perspective, they've always been underfunded. And the goal with this legislation, among the other elements of it, is for communities that are really working to do innovative things, that are working to do these kind of intervention and prevention programs, that there are also federal dollars available to support them. So my appreciation to both the chiefs for the work that they do on the ground. And thank you so much for that question, Dawn.
So our next question comes from Gigi in Culpeper. Hello, Gigi. You are live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What's on your mind?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Go right ahead.
Hello. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger and Chief Newsham and Settle. My question is, My question is, I have been a resident of Prince William County for 20 years, and I'm a current resident of Culpeper for 1 year as of this month. Regarding the public safety concerns, what preventative efforts are being put in place to proactively decrease the number of reports concerning domestic violence. We know that during the fall and winter, these calls increase regarding intimate partner violence, which is a public safety issue. And that is my question. Thank you guys so much for having this call.
Well, it's great to talk to you, Gigi, and how perfect that both your former police chief and your current police chief are on the line. I'm going to speak to one thing from a federal perspective, but I think the perspective of the chiefs is far more important, given that they're the ones who are responding to these circumstances and their officers are. One thing I mentioned, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. One of the things that we importantly did as part of that bill was narrowed what was previously called the boyfriend loophole. So there have long been prohibitions or limitations in place for those who've been convicted of crimes of domestic violence from possessing firearms when those crimes occurred within the context of an abusive marital relationship. So, when you go through a background check, if you have that violent history of domestic abuse, you become a prohibited buyer in that circumstance. What our bill did was recognize that within those relationships, it isn't always a marital relationship and a dating relationship, that domestic violence is serious and is an indicator of additional violence, whether individuals are dating or married. And so that is, I think, an important step forward in narrowing, again, what was previously called the boyfriend loophole there. But certainly we all know that domestic violence calls are at times among the most dangerous. And so I'm grateful for every single law enforcement officer across our district for their work in keeping people safe, particularly in their own homes, and particularly when the violence occurs within the home. But I'll turn it over to Chief Settle first, if you'd like to, as Gigi's current police chief, and then if Chief Newsham would like to add anything, we'll go to you, sir.
Hello, Gigi. Thank you for the question. Thank you for participating tonight, and welcome to Culpeper. And we would love to have you by the police department one day. But I would tell you, domestic violence calls continue to be one of our most dangerous calls, one of the most predominant calls that we have here in the town of Culpeper. I would tell you, in the late 90s, I believe 1997, 1998, but the law had changed where we shall arrest the predominant aggressor, and we train on that. Our officers are trained on domestic violence laws from the academy level all the way through in-service levels. We get annual training on domestic violence, but also we do victims' rights training. Our victims are important to provide the services that they need. We have, at the police department here in Culpeper, we have a great relationship with our Culpeper County Crime Victim Witness department, where they will come out 24/7 basis to come assist victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and abuse as well. I'll kind of throw that in there as well. And we also there's a nonprofit here in Culpeper called SAFE, Services to Abused Families Incorporated. I'm a former board member there. I can tell you and I can attest to you that the staff there at SAFE reaches out to community. They have a community outreach coordinator to provide this education and prevention efforts to our citizens here in Culpeper on domestic violence and sexual abuse. And I know once the court systems, they enter the court system, the victims, they provide advocacy and support to the victims and to the victims' children. Most of the time, as we know, children are a part of this domestic violence equation that we're trying to solve. And SAFE and the Culpeper County Crime Victim Witness provide a vital role. They come into our roll calls at least once a year to provide all of our officers training on how to support victims and how to provide services to them and get them to services. Sometimes the hard part is navigating the services when you're a victim of domestic violence. So I will tell you, from the town of Culpeper, we take domestic violence very serious and sexual assault and abuse. And we have great partnerships with our advocates across the county in Culpeper to provide that support to our victims and to their children.
Thank you, Chief Tuttle. Chief Newsham?
Yeah, that was a very comprehensive answer. And Gigi, we miss you in Prince William, but you certainly have landed in a good place with a great chief. But I'll say this about the domestic violence. One of the things we try to do, very similar to Culpeper, is to really kind of wrap our arms around the victims, provide them with services. Some of our victims that are in domestic violence relationships are also in a situation where they have nowhere else to turn. They need housing. Sometimes they're being supported by their abuser. And so what these service providers, we're very fortunate in Prince William County to have a host of service providers, is they'll go and they'll be able to somehow assist that victim out of that circumstance. The other thing I will add is whenever we have the victim of a domestic violence, what we do is we apply what's called a lethality assessment tool. And that's a series of questions. And those questions are to determine whether or not that domestic violence could potentially become lethal. The answers to those questions. This is a scientific tool that's been developed by academics, and it's very effective. And one of the things that tool will sometimes do when you tell a victim of domestic violence that this could actually lead to a fatality, sometimes that changes their mindset and they take more effort to get out of that relationship. So there's a lot of things that we're doing with our service providers on the service end, and that your question is a great one, and thank you so much for asking that.
Thank you to everybody for joining us for this live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Spanberger. We're focused on public safety issues. If you have a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And also, you can get signed up to receive updates from the Congresswoman's office via email. You can do that by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad now. Let's head back out to Prince William, where we've got Mary Ann joining us. Hello, Mary Ann. You're live on the call. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm curious if there is anything we can do as citizens or the police can do to address aggressive driving. I feel like we're seeing more and more people not only speeding but driving really fast up the shoulders, aggressively weaving through traffic and potentially hurting, innocent people that are just trying to drive down the road. Just wondering if there's anything that can be done about that. I've noticed it not only on the highways, but on like Old Bridge Road, Prince William Parkway, and some of the other roads in my area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Chief Newsham, I'll turn this one over to you.
Yeah, Mary Ann, thank you for asking that question. And that's one of the questions we get the most when we go to community meetings in Prince William is about the driving, the speeding, the aggressive driving, the loud mufflers. And so since I've been in as chief, we've had increased our enforcement pretty dramatically over the last 3 years. We hold crime briefings every 2 weeks where we measure the productivity of our patrol officers out in the field, and we're seeing significant increases on the enforcement side. One of the things that our Board of County Supervisors thankfully has done is they've authorized a pilot program for automated traffic enforcement in our school zones and then also at some of our red lights. So you're going to start to see red light cameras out there, and we already have in a couple of our school zones speed cameras to slow people down. I know this can be controversial in our community, whether or not you want to have automated traffic enforcement out there, but I can tell you with the size of Prince William County and the number of people that we have on our roads, that the 720 police officers I have is not enough. We really need that automatic traffic enforcement to assist us in slowing people down, and particularly in our school zones. And then making sure that they stop at red lights, because the red light crashes can be our most severe. In Prince William County, we lose between 20 and 25 people every year on our roads to traffic fatalities. And those are, in my opinion, unnecessary and very unfortunate for the families to unnecessarily lose a life because of driving on our roads. So I'll let you know, we are committed to slowing people down. But if you want to ask, what you can do is take a look at that pilot program that we have on the automated traffic enforcement. If you're so inclined, please support that.
Next up, we've got Reginald in Spotsylvania. Reggie, you are live with Congresswoman Spanberger and guests. What's your question?
Yes, hi. Good evening, and thank you for having me. So my question is for either one of the police departments. When it pertains to private security firms within side of the different communities. As we know, throughout the different counties, you have the HOAs that have hired private security firms, in a lot of cases, armed security, et cetera. So the question is, what is, if anything, any of the jurisdictions doing to possibly partner with, as opposed to shun, but partner with some of these legitimate, compliant security firms to help with decreasing crime, not just in those particular communities, but to be the additional eyes and ears for things within the county.
So, gentlemen, I'm going to go to Chief Settle first, and then Chief Newsham, if you'd like to add something.
Thanks, Reggie, for the question. That's a very good question. So in the town of Culpeper, we have, again, 25,000 people, 8 square miles. So we don't have a lot of reputable private security, as you state, in town, but we do have some installations within the town limits that has private security that we work very closely with. We have 2 installations in town that are very close together. We actually have meetings with them pretty regularly. We go out and have tours. Their private security company will give us tours of facilities, talk about concerns, talk about new security infrastructure that they've installed to make sure that we're aware of that. We're also working with them just recently, 2 weeks ago. We have an installation that's supported by the Department of Commerce. Department of Treasury. They wanted to come out and have our drones come over and fly over their facility to help do a security assessment of their facility. So we worked hand in hand with them. They also have the ability to communicate with us, to our officers, in real time. We do provide them with radio equipment that they can talk to either the town police department or the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office directly if something's going on. So to answer your question, we really work hand in hand with our private security. Our private security companies that we deal with are all what we call DCJS certified, which means they go through the Department of Criminal Justice Services, which is a department through the state where they're licensed and trained to get that license. So we know that they're well equipped. We know they're well trained to do private security. So that makes that relationship building even better, and that trust. So to answer your question, is we work pretty closely with our private security companies here in town.
And the same goes for us in Prince William County. We have a host of, as Chief Settle said, DCGS certified private security, both armed and unarmed, across the county. And we work very, very closely with them. I'm a firm believer that we will take all the help we can when it comes to security, and we're more than willing to partner with other security groups that are out there. I also think that when you have a business owner, first of all, hiring private security is not inexpensive. It costs some money. But when you have a business owner who's out there and they're going to actually pay for security to keep their place safe, it helps us. But I also think it symbolizes to the community that when you come into their establishment, they want it to be safe. So those are the types of folks that we're willing to work with. And if you know some folks in Prince William County who are working private security and we haven't had an opportunity to meet them, have them reach out to us. We'd be happy to work with them.
So our next question comes from Tracy, who is participating live online with us at spanberger.house.gov/live. Right below the streaming player, Tracy put her name and this question in for us. The question is, how can communities' citizens better assist agencies' officer wellness programs, reducing maladaptive behavior, absenteeism, enhancing mental and physical health of officers and their families?
That's a great question, Tracy, and I'll turn it over to Chief Newsham if you'd like to start. Chief Settle, if you have anything to add.
Sure, happy to talk on this subject. This is a subject that's emerging in law enforcement circles, the wellness of our officers, because police officers, like a lot of first responders, over the course of a career, are subjected to trauma. And we've become more informed on this issue in policing, probably I would say in the last 6-7 years. We are very, very fortunate in Prince William County that we have a resiliency center that's staffed by excellent clinicians. And what we can do is that's available to our officers, it's available to our professional staff, and it's also available to their families. And we think that the only way you're really going to get good police service is if you have healthy police officers. And they have to be physically healthy, they have to be mentally healthy, and they have to be spiritually healthy. And that mental wellness really comes about when you start to see a police officer who might be experiencing some indicators that they're having some issues that might be trauma related. We also have the ability through our early intervention system to direct those officers over to our resiliency center. So the officers can take advantage of this on their own, their families can take advantage of it. But also from a management standpoint, if we see an officer who, for example, you mentioned this in your question, who starts showing up late for work, maybe they look a little bit out of disorder, maybe they're a little bit more moody than usual, we can direct them over to the resiliency center. And I can tell you, I have had experiences with members of the agency where we've directed them over there. They'll go over there, they'll work with the clinicians, they'll get themselves into a better place, and they'll later come back and thank us for giving them that opportunity. So the wellness piece is something that's emerging in law enforcement, and I couldn't agree with you more that we got to focus on the health and well-being of our first responders.
And Tracy, I'll just add one thing, and I think it's a great question. I have officer wellness as one of my top 5 most pressing issues in law enforcement. Here at the police department, like Chief Newsham has instituted in his agency, we have a peer support program, who are officers who are specially trained to provide peer support to their fellow officers. Not only our officers, but we provide peer support to our dispatchers, firefighters, et cetera, all of our first responders. But one thing I've instituted about a year and a half ago is all of our officers are mandated to go to a mandatory mental health wellness check, where they go to a licensed clinician once a year. Some of our employees go twice a year, depending on assignment, to go talk to a mental health clinician, and it's mandatory. So we've seen great results from that. We've seen where our employees, over 60% of our employees are going back for secondary checks with their clinicians, which I think is a positive thing to take that stigma off of mental health and law enforcement. So we treat it parallel with a physical injury. So they self-care themselves and go and talk to a professional. But the peer support, our own people talking to their peers, has been a tremendous impact for us.
To follow up on Tracy's question, I just want to thank both of the chiefs. Certainly, in my conversations and my visits to your departments, it is very clear that the health and wellness of your officers is a top priority. And I think even as Chief Settle, as you mentioned, the mandated engagement, the data show that is very clearly a way to get people kind of over that first hurdle of getting before a clinician, and recognizing and confirming that the department cares about and recognizes that it's not an easy job, and the stresses of the jobs, the things that your officers see on a daily basis can cause unique stressors, and a healthy workforce is a department that can best serve the community. So thank you both for being such leaders in that area. And Tracy, thanks for asking that question.
Next up, we've got Tiffany from Pennsylvania. Tiffany, you're live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What's your question?
Hi, yeah, mine is, I guess, more for Spanberger, and somehow it relates to this and infrastructure. My mother lives out in Partlow, like Beaver Dam, Virginia. And I'm just concerned, it's in our district as well, but I'm concerned because all of these great services that we have, and when something has happened to her in the past, she had to send her sister up the road to make a call because there's no phone lines where she is. There's no high-speed internet to connect a cell phone to. There's no cell phone towers. And it's really dangerous. It's really dangerous. So I wonder if anything is being considered to address that at all.
So I would say the overall work that I've done in this space has been less legislative and more engagement directly with communities, particularly the more rural communities that I represent. Going back to the infrastructure law or before that, all of the work that I've done in the space of broadband connectivity, the basic infrastructure of connecting communities, be it electricity and generations before us, or telephonically, or with the internet, like the impact is far greater than just the ability to get online. It's getting alerts of severe weather conditions. It's getting being able to make calls in times of emergencies. And another place where I've worked directly with local communities, not represented on the call today, but in Madison County, one of the wonderful communities within the 7th District. I worked with them through the Community Project Funding Program to get equipment, radio coverage inside the public schools because a real issue that was worrisome to first responders in the county is that in the event of some sort of emergency, weather event, health event, or any sort of worrisome circumstance in a school, that they would not necessarily be able to get direct contact. So in this particular case, what the county recognized they needed was a type of amplifier system and antenna cables throughout the building that could ensure that people within the building could have a direct link to the law enforcement officers and first responders who might be necessary. In Stafford County, we work directly with the sheriff's department there. Also on dispatching equipment for the purposes of ensuring that they can, get prompt responses kind of inputted in the system and first responders out the door. And so while not kind of directly specific to the situation with your mother, I hope it speaks to the fact that, frankly, county by county and community by community, first responders, the county boards of supervisors or town councils are among the very first ones to recognize where there are lapses in communications and are working directly with our office, either legislatively or for grant funding, to try and fill those holes. Across the board for infrastructure, that's been a priority to get communities better connected. We've made tremendous progress in Virginia. There's still a bit more work to be done. I thank you for this question because there's still more work to be done, but certainly it's in direct concert with first responders on the ground that we've been doing some of this priority work. And then one last thing I would add, the AM radio is something that is extraordinarily important, particularly in many rural communities. For emergency alerts and emergency information. And there has been a movement towards eliminating AM radio transmission in some vehicles. And so there's legislative efforts that I am wholly supportive of that would protect AM radio transmission, given the vital nature of their services, particularly in more expansive, more rural communities. And I'll leave it at that. Unless the chiefs want to add anything, I'll turn it back to the moderator.
All right, very quickly, another reminder, the Congresswoman and her staff send out email updates frequently to keep you informed. You can get enrolled right now by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Again, get enrolled for updates from the Congresswoman and her staff by pressing *6 right now. And one final try, *3 if you've got a question that you want to ask during this live call. We're heading out to Stafford now, where we're joined by Jason. Hi, Jason. You're live on the call. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. We're talking about public safety tonight, and I appreciate the call with safety, but we haven't mentioned the fire service. We haven't mentioned fire safety, and that involves public safety. Currently, we have a shortage of firefighters statewide in Virginia, smaller counties have less resources than they have ever. And wouldn't it be beneficial to standardize a curriculum where a firefighter could transfer to another jurisdiction and not repeating the same Virginia state certifications and waste tax dollars? And then that goes to retention and taxpayer money. So, and why isn't a fire chief present in this conference?
Thank you so much for the question, and certainly, the focus of today's conversation. I hear you loud and clear, and I think when we're talking about first responders and public safety, the reality is that everyone who's responding to any sort of emergency, be it a car crash, a home fire, a home invasion, has a seat at the table and a voice at the table. I hear you, and I will be following up potentially with some fire chiefs in our district. And I recently, probably the past month and a half, had a good sit-down meeting with fire chiefs from a couple different localities in Virginia who were up here on Capitol Hill, including some chiefs from the 7th District, to talk about the hurdles that they continue to face, the challenges that they continue to face. Everything from some of the zoning challenges that in communities where fires are more prevalent or harder to reach. I will say that I voted and we passed the Fire Grants and Safety Act, which reauthorizes funding for fire and emergency service grant programs. And the president actually signed it into law today. And so this is an important piece of legislation that would provide substantial funding to communities that are eligible for it, that apply for it, for them to have additional funding at the ready from a federal perspective. And much like I mentioned, the radios for first responders, be they police, be they fire, be they paramedics, Nottoway County used to be in the 7th District before redistricting, and when I was their representative, I worked directly with the town of Blackstone as they were bringing to my office, to me, the needs of that community. And specific in that community was the fact that they did not have a ladder truck in their volunteer fire department, and they had great concerns that it was just an issue of sheer luck that they had not yet faced a catastrophic circumstance that would require a ladder truck that they did not have. We worked together for a period of about a year. We finally got them that funding, almost $1 million. And about a month and a half ago, that fire truck was finally delivered to Nottoway County. Over the weekend, I heard from officials within the town of Blackstone that, in fact, on its very first fire call out of the fire department, that ladder truck was necessary, that there was a substantial fire-related, there was accelerants involved, a car hit a propane tank. It was a very dangerous situation. Multiple firefighters were injured. They're expected to all recover. But the vital nature of this tool, this ladder truck, is one that, again, it was local officials, the local fire chief, the local community recognizing what they needed, bringing that to us, and us working together. And thank God they were lucky long enough until that truck was delivered, and when they needed it, it was there. And so in addition to some of the other challenges with staffing, with hiring, one of the conversations, and again, this isn't a federal issue, but certainly that I heard about when they were here on Capitol Hill, that fire chiefs across Virginia were talking about, is just, is some of the training requirements and the ability and mobility to move between departments, and some of the hurdles that they face, both in losing people to other departments, but importantly, in being able to keep people within their departments. So I'll make sure that our team has your direct information, and if there's anything further that we can follow up with, specifically related to fire services. And thank you for your call and your comments.
Our next question comes from Victoria in Prince William. Victoria, you're live with Congresswoman Spanberger. Go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you for having me. I am concerned about, now for the most part, most of the citizens and people that live in Virginia are very mannerable and nice and friendly. But we live in these communities that are middle class. And so, so happened, one of the mortgage payers or owners decides to rent their basement out. But the person that they rent their basement out has left. So we got these random people from all over, just street life, coming here. They use fentanyl. They go in sober, they come out and they are distort. And they walk around the community all discombobulated with their pants hanging down. We got a lot of kids out there that play. I got woods in the back of my yard, in the back of my house, and I am so afraid that one of those children or some of those children going to be kidnapped in their stupor, in their drug stupor, and be raped or killed or whatever. It's about prevention. What can we do? I mean, Prince William County cops has been here every time we call, and they have been on point. But they said that there's nothing that they can do because it's a process. There is a reason for them to get a warrant to really, investigate that situation. And from what I hear, they got an investigation going on, but it looks like it's taking.
I'm not sure if we lost you, Victoria. Are you still there?
We just lost Miss Victoria, but I think we've got enough for the question. So let's go ahead and please address that, Congresswoman.
Absolutely. Victoria, I'm sorry that we lost you. I hope that you're able to hear our answers. Chief, if you don't mind, Chief Newsham, that is, as she's from Prince William, I'm going to speak on a couple points related specifically to fentanyl. And then as she's a resident and expressing some concerns about some neighbors or some worries that she has about potential drug use in the home and what that might mean for the safety of kids nearby, I'll turn it over to you. But just to begin, Victoria, when you were talking about the issue of worry about drug use, worry about potential fentanyl use, and certainly as it relates to fentanyl issues, overdoses, substance use disorder, this is an area where I have partnered with both of the police chiefs on the line. A number of years back, I partnered with the Culpeper Police Department, and they were a great resource. So my hat's off to Chief Settle for the support and the engagement that you gave as we were building out a piece of legislation called the Summer Barrow Prevention, Treatment, and Recovery Act. It's a pretty comprehensive bill that has been signed into law. It is law. And it has a variety of components to it, among them support to law enforcement as they contend with both behavioral health issues on the ground in communities and also drug use and substance abuse within communities, recognizing that the kind of key to dealing with issues that originate with drug use is also contending with the very real problem of addiction within our communities. So I'm proud of the work that we were able to do together there. And I've also, from a root causes standpoint, have had two different bills signed into law related to fentanyl trafficking. Certainly as someone who is a federal legislator with a background in national security, being able to stop the actual transport and shipment of fentanyl into our communities in the first place, into the United States, quite frankly, is important. So my bills were signed into law, Securing America's Borders Against Fentanyl and a Transnational Fentanyl Prevention Act, both of which have been signed into law. So that gets at sort of the 30,000-foot view with the Summer Barrow Prevention, Treatment, Recovery Act, with the kind of federal perspective supporting our communities. And Chief Newsham, if you could address any advice for Victoria or your perspective as the Chief of Police for Prince William, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Representative Spanberger, for all the work you've done in assisting the local jurisdictions with the fentanyl problem. And that's a devastating problem. It's just a very, very tiny amount of fentanyl can take a life. And the people who are out there peddling fentanyl have decided to purposely do it because they know it's more addictive and it'll lead to more customers for them. So all of your work is very, very much appreciated. And then to Victoria, your story is all too familiar, where there is one property in a neighborhood that's creating a lot of problems. And it sounds like in your particular case, it's a drug-related issue. What I would ask you to do, Victoria, if you could, is just shoot us an email at the Prince William County Police Department. You can even shoot it directly to me. You can find that on our website. And we will get our Special Investigations Bureau to go over there and take a look at the property, take a look at the activity. And the other thing we'll look at is we'll look at the landlord and the ownership over there and see if that is something that can be addressed as well, because landlords need to be responsible too. They cannot be renting their properties to folks who are creating disturbances in the community. So I say that to you, Victoria, but I also say it to anybody else who is listening. If you do have a problem home in the neighborhood, particularly if it's drug related, if you can get us that information, and you can do it anonymously, we can get our Special Investigations to do some bureau to work on that. And we have seen some success when we have done that in other parts of the county.
Thank you so much. And if we did lose Victoria, I think when she first connected, we would have her contact information so we can also help facilitate her contact with the department, Chief Newsham.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, Congresswoman, looking at the clock, we need to begin to wrap up. So I would like to call upon you for some closing thoughts, ma'am.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dirk, for moderating this discussion. I want to thank Chief Newsham and Chief Settle for joining this evening. I thank them both for being great partners to my congressional office in their work in engaging on the legislation that we've worked on that pertains to public safety, issues of fentanyl, issues of substance use disorder, and issues of the health and safety of police officers, and particularly those within their departments. I thank you and all of your officers for the tremendous work that you do. And to all of the constituents on the line, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to represent you and to have this conversation. And before we sign off for the evening, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Settle if you have any closing remarks, and then Chief Newsham. But again, to everyone on the line, thank you so much. And if you do have any challenges with a federal agency, our office is here to help. Please be in touch. Chief Settle.
Well, again, thank you, Congresswoman Spanberger, for inviting me for this very important dialogue. I look forward to this. Any opportunity we get to engage the public, I'll always take on. And I will just tell you guys, all my persons who are in the town of Culpeper who are listening, please, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, to contact the Culpeper Police Department, contact me directly. My email is located on our website, also on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and there's a few others out there I can't think of right now. But please contact me directly if you have any concerns. But we thank you for allowing us to serve you, and I want to thank. Well, I got this time to thank my men and women of my police department who are out there working tonight and working tomorrow, working 24/7, 365 for the tremendous job they do every day. They're a group of professionals that I value most, and I know I'm biasly speaking, but I think I have the greatest men and women who are serving the Commonwealth here today. So thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Chief Newsham, for being our partners in the North. I know we call you quite a bit for advice, and having a good big brother to the north of us is always a value.
Well, Chief Settle, you can say it. You can say the older brother to the north. I won't take offense. That's fine. But Representative Spanberger, I want to thank you. This dialogue, gun violence, touched on traffic safety, touched on fentanyl, and community concerns that people have in their neighborhoods, and those are issues that are ongoing. And one of the things that I will urge all of the listeners to do is, if you do have these ongoing questions, you don't have to wait for the town hall and you don't have to wait for the community meeting. Come to our website, shoot us an email. We have a general email One of the things that I require of my agency is that, we don't have all the answers, but we do owe us, reach out to us, and I will promise you that we will get back to you and we will help you in any way that we possibly can. And I'm going to echo some of the things that Chief Settle said with regards to the people who work in this profession. This is an incredibly noble profession. The people who do it are people of integrity. I tell people all the time, I am fortunate to be able to walk amongst heroes. It's the men and women of the Prince William County Police Department, the men and women of the Culpeper Police Department, and the men and women of the law enforcement agencies that serve the Commonwealth. These are tremendous people. They are willing to put their safety in jeopardy to protect others. And I am very, very fortunate to be able to assist them in that. And so, again, thank you, Representative Spanberger. Thank you, Chief Settle, and I'm looking forward to future discussions.
Thank you.
We've reached the end of this evening's live event. We appreciate everyone for taking the time to join us for this important public safety telephone town hall with Congresswoman Spanberger and our guests. We appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions, but if we weren't able to get to your question this evening, you can call our district office at 703-987-2180 during normal business hours, or connect with the Congresswoman through her website at spanberger.house.gov. Thank you again. Stay safe and have a wonderful rest of your week. Good night, everyone.